Hello there guys, and welcome to Mad Dok Minis. In this video I'm going to try my hand at the Big Bot Bash as created by Bill Making Stuff. So go and check out his channel if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's really good. What did I get for my D20 rolls then? For the body I got bellyful, for the head I got grinder, for the arms I got extras, for the hands I got take an eye out with that, for the legs I got backwards, and for the whole flavour of the thing I got savage. So I really want to try and interpret that as literally as I can. So I went ahead and got all my bits and pieces together, all my kind of junk that's lying around, to see what I can do with it. So first of all I select these turret pieces from a Flames of War tank kit, and they're a little bit out of scale, so I need to remove like those little shovels on the side because they're a bit of a giveaway. Once that's done, I've got two nice chunky feet to work with. I then set about creating the shin components. Now remember, I got backwards for the legs, so these are going to be like the kind of ATST style legs from Star Wars, the chicken walker legs, because I want to try and interpret that as properly as I can. So I go ahead and glue two of those together and slot them in the little gap at the top of the turret there. And I put a little bit of a crossbar in at the top as well and glue that in place, and that creates two stubby little shin pieces there. I put a little bit of hot glue in from underneath the turret section there, just to hold the whole thing together and make it nice and strong, because of course this is going to be supporting the weight of the whole bot. I do decide to limit the size of the bot by selecting a Games Workshop base here, and that is purely just for that reason, just to limit the size. So I've noticed from some of the other creators who are doing this that some of the bots end up huge, and I think that's very easy to do. You can get carried away with the size. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I really wanted to keep mine quite small and potentially playable on the battlefield. So here I'm using some components from a Toy Tomy Trains kit. These are little coupling connectors that I had left over from other projects, and I'm gluing those onto the side of the shin pieces to create kind of the thigh components, I guess you could say. Now in the middle of those we're going to create some actuators with some Lego wheels and some fasteners, clothes fasteners from the haberdashery kind of stuff. And I'm going to glue those two together, and they are exactly the right thickness then to slot in between those kind of thigh prongs there. That's a nice actuator for the leg. And I obviously do that twice and create two identical legs. I then decide to kind of go down the belly full route, and I use like a paint pot lid to create this belly section, and I then think about the head. So these are the kind of like chain blades from the old Sentinel kit. I've got three of those glued together, and this is a part from the Predator, plastic Predator tank kit. And I think that makes a serviceable looking head if those two are put together like that. So I could go ahead and glue those two together, and then I put some cowling pieces from a Space Marine tank kit on the side as well. So I don't know exactly where all this stuff came from, guys. Apologies for that, but you can probably work most of it out. So that's kind of creating the main bulk of the head. Then I put another piece on top of the kind of hip component there, which is from a Multimac toy kit. It was a classic kind of toy line. I've got a few of these lying around. That just is a nice kind of bit of substructure for me to stick bits onto, basically. So it's made out of plastic. The head at this stage I glue on top, but do stay tuned because I do change the position of the head towards the end of the build. But for now it kind of wants to go on top here, and I actually put a couple of those haberdashery clothes fastener things on top of that area, just to create the idea of a, I don't know, some kind of neck actuator, some moving parts. I'm not being too fussy about this build. It is really more of a junk bot, mine. So then that goes on top. Hot glue is a lifesaver for this build, by the way. Can't recommend it highly enough. It holds everything together nice and firmly. Next, I actually glue two Lego wheels onto the shoulder areas, just on that Multimac component that I showed you not long ago. And I do that with a kind of slight downward tilt to the side. And these are just going to add substructure underneath for kind of the arms that I'm going to add on later on in this build. So there you are, a little bit of hot glue does the trick, and just making sure that's reasonably equal between the sides. Nice. And I've got these arms that are already cast-offs for me from the galvanic servo haulers kit from Games Workshop. Never going to use them for anything else, so I decided to make them useful in this project. I'm going to take off the Mechanicus symbols because this is not supposed to be a Warhammer 40,000 robot, although it would be nice to think I could, put it into a game or some sort of role-playing scenario, but it's not supposed to be faction orientated in Warhammer 40,000 at all. So I put a bit of hot glue down on top of those Lego wheels and then just glue the arms straight on. They're going to get a little bit more attention later on in the build, but for now they're just representing 2 arms. Remember, I got extras for the arms, so I'm going to need more than 2. Well, at least in my mind, that's what extras means. I want more than 2 arms here. So getting ready for those extra arms, I just put on some more of those clothes fastener pieces, and I kind of glue those on at a slight angle just to give me some freedom about where I put these extra arms. And speaking of the extra arms, I actually use these old Sentinel legs to do that. So again, I have a lot of rubbish lying around, and these look pretty cool. I'm aware that at the moment this is looking like a metal Carnifex as well. It's not intentional, but it kind of is looking a bit like it. So with those extra arms, I want to kind of cut off that ball joint, because I want this big kind of claw thing. And again, I've got these claw things from the crane on the Galvanic servo haulers kit as well. I've got a lot of spares from that kit. I didn't use a lot in it, so I'm just trimming that all down. I'm going to glue the 2 bits together. This is where it really does look like a metal Carnifex, because you've got the big scything kind of talons, really. Totally unintentional, but now I watch it back, I can totally see that. But there you go, probably kind of lodged somewhere in my mind. I was trying to create this kind of mechanical tyrannid. So anyway, that gets glued onto the end of the Sentinel leg ×2, and then I've got my 2 extra arms, and they're going to get attached onto the side onto those wheels. Once that's done, I then put some lenses on the head there, and he actually ends up having about 5 eyes. 4, I think it's 5 eyes he ends up having. So I've got 1 in the centre there, and 4 more get glued on. They got 2 in the middle there, and I put some extra ones on towards the end as well. So I put a heavy bolter on one of the arms there, because I want some ballistic kind of output with this thing. And for the belly, I actually increased the size of that by using this kind of food lid that goes onto the paint pot there. With the head, I moved this down because it just wasn't looking right. So I moved it down just above the belly, and that gives it a much meaner, more savage look, I think. So this is it all primed up. I did add some extra bits on, which I'll try and talk you through. So first of all, let's kind of point this out. So I've got this component here, which is from a Space Marine vehicle, and you saw that I put those lenses in that little hollow there. So that's 5 eyes altogether. Got the heavy bolter from, I believe, a Predator, an old Predator kit. On the side here, we've got some watch cogs, just for extra detail. They're really, really useful for these type of builds. I've got a big stash of those. And yeah, you can see here, look, the hand is actually a Sentinel foot that I had spare, and that's just glued on there. And here, I don't know what the hell that component is. That was a plastic component from a toy on the back of the head. This is from the Predator kit, all these components here. These are Lego pipes and cables. And this is another Predator component underneath, like at the cowling from the gun, just bulks everything out. And I've also used some EVA foam for armoured plates in various locations as well, which incidentally is a wonderful crafting material. Thanks ever so much to Bill Making Stuff for highlighting that one. That's really, really useful. So yeah, you know, lots of other little bits on there. But then it's painting now. And painting time, according to Bill, is story time. So let's lay down the story of this fella. So this robot is very, very old, probably a couple of 100 years old, actually, and it was originally designed as a logging robot, a kind of multi-ton lumberjack, if you will, hence the nickname Loggerhead. Now, this thing originally was quite different in design. It didn't have 4 arms, it only had a single pair of arms, the lower set, and they are very, very strong. It was designed to manipulate several tons of tree trunk at a time, bring it up to the chainsaw-like structures in the head and chop it down into smaller segments for transportation. And so the strength of this thing is phenomenal. If it gets something within its grasp, not much is going to be getting away. But for all that strength, unfortunately, it's very slow and not very agile. It was never intended or designed to be used in combat. Therefore, it's quite easy to outmaneuver. You just have to stay away from its very, very powerful grip and actuators. The extra arms on top of the robot were added at a much later time to try and make it a little bit more competitive in the bot arenas, and through those additions it gained some ballistic capabilities with a heavy machine gun and also a grabbing like hand which can manipulate simple objects and grab enemies and pull them into the more dangerous weaponry like the chainsaws and the scything talons. The distinctive belly on this thing is actually quite boring in nature. It is actually a reservoir for sawdust and wood chips that would be collected through the chainsaw-like blades in the head. to stop it clogging up. It would collect in this reservoir, which would need to be emptied periodically. And in an emergency, those wood chips can actually be heated and burned up within the robot to recharge diminished power cells. Not a very efficient way to get out of a scrape, but it is an emergency system in place that it can use. So there were likely some seeds left over in this reservoir from its last logging duty that have lain dormant for literally probably 100 years or more. And recently things have started to germinate within the robot for unknown reasons. So there's actually plants and foliage growing out of it in various places, which is a little bit weird. But it doesn't seem to have interfered with the mechanisms of the robot or, made it any less efficient with what it's trying to do. So there you go, that's my little bit of story time, and I hope you enjoyed it, guys. I'd highly recommend giving this challenge a go. It really gets the creative juices flowing. So go and check out Bill Making Stuff if you're interested. And here you can see it on a rotating platform in all its, well, I was going to say glory, but, let's face it, not really. So I've kept to a very simple palette here. I used a kind of industrial green on it and went for a very basic basing technique. I don't really like heavily adorned bases or diorama type things on the base. I'm not trying to do a narrative on the base or anything. I like the miniature to do that, and I think it does it in this case as well. So yeah, wonderful challenge. I'd recommend it to anyone. I actually decided to pick up the Bangarang book for the kind of bot bash kind of table, but I think you can access it for free online. I think that's right. But go and check it out, guys. It's really, really good. If you've enjoyed the content, please consider liking and sharing. And if you're not already subscribed, consider giving me a sub. I really do appreciate all the support. Please let me know what you think. I really worked hard to make this good and try to be true to the Bill Making Stuff kind of motif. So yeah, I hope I've managed that, and I would really appreciate some feedback. Let me know what you think, guys, and thanks for joining in. I will catch you in a future video soon. Cheers.